The morning light, soft and golden, crept through the silk curtains, drawing delicate patterns on the bedroom's parquet floor. Each ray seemed to dance to the rhythm of the wind, bringing a soft and comforting warmth. Jasmine woke up before dawn, as usual. She preferred the tranquility of those first moments of the day, before the world woke up. The tumult of modern life, with its emergencies and noise, gave way to an almost sacred peace in his moments of introspection. In this silence, she found herself, she refocused, appreciated the serenity of her own company. She sat on the edge of the bed, breathing deeply in the fresh air that seeped through the half-open window. Jasmine was not only a talented and respected lawyer in her field, she was also a woman who knew the importance of taking care of herself, nourishing her mind and her body. That morning, she had decided to treat herself to a little luxury, a well-deserved reward for the hard work she did every day. A visit to the high-end jewelry store in the city center, a gold bracelet that she had spotted weeks ago, the simple but refined object that she wanted to treat herself to. She got up and went to the adjoining bathroom, where the aromas of essential oils filled the air. The hot, almost scalding water, brushing against his skin, helped him get rid of the last traces of fatigue. She took her time, enjoying this moment of relaxation. The mirror gave him the image of a strong, determined woman, beautiful in her simplicity. Every gesture, every movement was measured, like a silent dance in the dim light of his bathroom. She chose an elegant but casual dress, a black piece that showed off her figure without going overboard. The simplicity of her outfit accentuated the natural beauty of her complexion, the delicacy of her features, the grace of her being. She looked at herself for a moment, appreciating herself in the mirror. Jasmine knew that beauty didn't lie in perfection, but in self-confidence. The neighborhood she was going to was one of the most chic in the city. The immaculately maintained cobbled streets spread out beneath his feet like a luxury carpet. The marble buildings shone in the sunlight, their facades adorned with sumptuous details and velvet-curtained windows. Each boutique was a work of art, a place where refinement and opulence blended harmoniously. The windows, impeccably arranged, revealed treasures inaccessible to the majority. But Jasmine was not intimidated by this setting. She was not just a passing customer, she was an accomplished woman, respected in her profession, a lawyer who never let herself be defined by outsiders. She arrived in front of the jewelry store, the elegant gold sign catching the morning light. As he entered, the air was scented with a sweet floral scent, and the cold marble tiles beneath his feet seemed to resonate with every step, as if to mark his entry into a world reserved for an elite. The store was bathed in subdued light, creating an intimate and refined atmosphere. The windows gleamed under the soft lighting, the jewelry sparkling like stars in the dark night. Each piece seemed to have a story, its own soul. The saleswoman, a young blonde woman with delicate features, immediately looked up when she heard the doorbell. She stood up from behind the counter with studied ease, but her smile froze as soon as she saw Jasmine. His gaze lingered for a moment on her skin, before settling on her clothes, already seeking to establish a judgment. It wasn't hard to see the quiet but obvious assessment in his eyes. Jasmine felt her peering at her from top to bottom, with a coldness that was undisguised. "Can I help you?" the saleswoman asked in a polite voice, but her intonations were marked by a slight condescension, as if she doubted whether Jasmine had any intention of buying anything in this store. Jasmine just smiled, a serene and controlled smile. She did not let herself be disturbed by the obvious hostility emanating from the young woman. She approached the windows calmly, observing the bracelets, the rings, the necklaces. The saleswoman followed her with her gaze, and Jasmine knew that she had already judged her appearance, had already put her in a box. But Jasmine was used to this kind of behavior. In the world she frequented, judgments were never far away, especially when it came to her appearance. She was not naive. However, she had no intention of giving up. She pointed to a delicately decorated gold bracelet, a simple but elegant design. "I'll take this one," she said in a calm voice, without showing the slightest hesitation. "I'm ready to check out." A heavy silence followed his words. The saleswoman remained motionless, looking uncertain, before slowly approaching. His eyes, still cold, stared at the bracelet, But Jasmine could see that his mind was elsewhere. She analyzed the product, but also the customer, weighing a decision in her mind. Finally, the saleswoman stepped forward, her gaze still distant. "I'm sorry," she said haughtily, "but I'm afraid it's not in your budget." She paused, trying to make sure her words had an impact. "Maybe you could choose something more affordable." Jasmine felt a wave of anger rise within her, but she quickly pushed it aside. She knew exactly what she was worth, and it had nothing to do with looks or the judgments of others. The woman standing in front of her had just crossed an invisible line. She knew it was useless to let herself be overcome by anger, but this remark could not go unanswered. She slowly turned towards the saleswoman, an elegant and controlled smile on her lips. "I'm sure you didn't look closely," she said in a measured voice. "I advise you to check again." The saleswoman, annoyed by Jasmine's persistence, rolled her eyes, an exasperated gesture that betrayed deep-rooted contempt. "I don't think you understand," she said icily, her voice carrying a calculated coldness. "Here, we serve customers of a certain stature. Perhaps you should try another store, one more suited to your means." The words hit Jasmine like a slap, as merciless as a stab in the stomach. She felt a bitter sneer form on her lips, but instead of responding to the provocation with a burst of anger, she clenched her fists under the counter, the heat of humiliation turning into cold, controlled anger. This was the moment where everything could change, but she knew this wasn't the kind of war she wanted to fight on a whim. She had another strategy in mind. Calmly, she took her phone out of her bag, dialing her husband's number without the slightest hesitation. She didn't need anyone but him at that moment. "Bernard, you have to come. I'm at the jewelry store, and they're treating me like I have no right to be here," she said in a calm voice, but each word carried the force of a silent explosion. "I'm on my way," he replied immediately, his voice betraying a hint of concern. Jasmine didn't even have time to hang up when she already knew he would be there, ready to face this situation which went far beyond a simple matter of the bracelet. Bernard, with his magnetic charisma and innate authority, was much more than a respected businessman. He was a man capable of resolving the most tense situations in an instant. He had built his empire on his ability to read people and overturn the balance of power. And it wasn't one more contempt that was going to make him waver. Barely a few minutes later, the door to the jewelry store opened with an almost theatrical lightness, and Bernard entered, his eyes immediately scanning the scene. His gaze pierced the room like a laser beam. He didn't need to speak for everyone to know who he was. His mere presence commanded respect. In an instant, he had captured the attention of all the customers present, and even the saleswoman froze, as if frozen in an invisible trap. He stepped forward confidently, without the slightest hesitation. His eyes locked with those of the saleswoman, and he didn't need words to create a palpable tension in the air. She, whose face was marked by the effort to hide embarrassment, felt overwhelmed by the weight of this man's gaze. "I am this lady's husband," Bernard said, his voice calm, but the intensity of his devouring gaze betrayed the contained violence. "And it seems you made a big mistake." The saleswoman instantly turned pale. Her posture sank slightly, a heavy breath escaping her lips without her being able to hide her confusion. Bernard didn't need to say more, but he did, a tone of authority he couldn't hide in his words. "I advise you to take another look at who comes into your stores and not make assumptions based on appearance or skin color. There are consequences to such attitudes, and believe me, you don't want to know what they are." Jasmine, still calm, head held high, felt a strange mix of relief and pride. She knew that her husband would not let this affront go unnoticed, and today, he was going to do her justice. He was her shield, and she had never been more grateful than in this moment. The heavy silence in the room only heightened the intensity of the scene, and the murmurs of the customers only fueled the electric atmosphere. The saleswoman, destabilized, tried one last time to apologize, but Bernard cut her off sharply. "It's too late for apologies," he said coldly. "You have just lost much more than a sale. You have lost the honor of your establishment." The words hit the saleswoman like a bolt from the blue. She no longer dared to reply. Bernard turned his back on the stage, And with sober elegance, he turned to Jasmine, gently taking her hand. "It's okay, my love. We have nothing more to do here." As they left the store under the amazed eyes of customers, a feeling of justice hung in the air. Bernard and Jasmine did not feel victorious in the banal sense of the term, but greater, more dignified, as if this confrontation had made it possible to re-establish a balance that society sometimes seemed to forget. The scene left a lasting impression. The couple was not there to play a role, nor to impose themselves in indifference. They were simply two equal people, treated as such, and this small victory, symbolic in many ways, spoke volumes about the relationship of power and respect. The next day, rumors were already circulating in the city. Jewelry, once a temple reserved for the rich and powerful, had been shaken to its foundations. And although the saleswoman was forced to issue a formal apology, Jasmine knew that this experience would resonate far beyond the walls of the store. She had not only restored her own dignity, but also sent a clear message to anyone who thought they could judge others based on appearance, skin color, or wealth.